We are a proud member of the 143 Podcast Network.
The Cheers to Comics podcast is proudly affiliated with NSCLiveTV.com. That's No Signal Comics. NSCLiveTV.com. Find the Cheers to Comics podcast on channel 34 of NSCLiveTV.com. No Signal Comics. The best in auction action. Well, hello again, slurs. Welcome back to the Cheers to Comics podcast. I am your host, Brian Wayne, and I have for you another Creator Corner. The creator in this here corner is going to be Lonnie Nadler this week. You may recognize Lonnie Nadler's name from such projects as Guardians of the Galaxy Annual, or perhaps even Yondu, and many other things that we're definitely going to be talking about. We're definitely going to be talking to Lonnie Nadler about his comics. So, this is one that I'm pretty excited about this. I'm always excited about these. I'm always excited to talk to creators. There's never a time where I'm not excited. But Lonnie's just another one of those guys. I'm just pretty ultra familiar with his work, or at least a lot of his Marvel work. And we're gonna talk about all of that. So first, I have to remind you to support those that support this podcast, and that would be my sponsors. My sponsors, more specifically, I'm all about the local comic book shop love right now, and as you all know, it could be difficult finding ways to get comics depending on which area in the country you're in and what the laws are, but there's a way to get your books and still support local comic book stores that are even closed, because a lot of them, at least the really smart ones, are going to this auction thing. That's why NSC Live TV was ahead of the game. They were so much ahead of the game, but now it's, we've got so many channels over there since this whole so Hooked on Comics, longtime lover and supporter of this here podcast. They, of course, are keeping their auction doors open on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays 7 p.m. Eastern. NSCLiveTV.com, Channel 12, or their Facebook group page, or the Cheers to Comics Facebook group page, where it is all shared out. So if you're someone that's fiending for some books, and at the same time you want to make sure you support local small businesses to keep the economy going and support the comic book industry, then there's no better way to do it than jumping on these NSCLiveTV.com auctions. That's what's going on there. So, once again, Hooked on Comics, John, Mary, the rest of the gang, on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Channel 12, NSCLiveTV.com. Your home for the best in auction action. Now, without further ado, let's get to this here interview with Lonnie Nadler. All right, Lonnie Nadler, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I mean, as good as I can be in this pandemic time we've got going on right now, but surviving and just trying to take every day one day at a time.
Yeah, same situation. I'm just doing my best. I'm one of the lucky people that still have a job in the comic book industry, and that's only because I work in a comic book warehouse. So I could say that people are definitely reading the hell out of books right now based off of how busy I am. So that's definitely a good thing. That's a good sign. People are going back and reading those back issues, man. It's strange times right now. It really is.
Totally. I mean, it's good to hear that from your perspective. There's still comics being read.
On a much bigger scale than I could ever really imagine, too, man. It's crazy how many books are being shipped out. So that's all good things. And books of all types, like the deepest, darkest cuts of things, like 12 people in the world have heard of, and that's including the creative team, That's
What city are you based in?
I'm in Denver, so I'm at Mile High Comics. That's where I work. Yeah, so it's the world's largest comic book store, so we are staying very busy. Yeah. I mean, at least the warehouse, the ordinance in Colorado is the doors got to be closed. So
Yeah.
yeah, but they're doing all types of things to keep things busy, and a lot of the things they're doing, it's for a lot of the money, a lot of the situations they're doing, it goes to like feeding Denver's hungry and all that stuff, because a lot of people are just completely forgotten about the homeless situation all of a sudden. So yeah, no, it's busy times, that's for sure. But as far as creating comics go, man, how busy are things for you right now, Lonnie?
I mean, dude, like you said before, it's a weird time. It's like I have some jobs that stopped, or things that are put on hold because some publishers just aren't able to keep it going. I have other publishers that are paying people advances. I have other publishers offering me things I never thought I'd get offered. So it's just kind of all over the place across the board, as I think people are just starting to figure out, and the companies are just starting to try to figure out how to navigate what this industry is going to look like going forward. But I do have to say it's promising in the sense that everyone is really trying to figure it out and be kind to each other, and they know creators struggle and shops struggle, and I see everyone just sort of doing the best they can to try to make sure that this the comic books are going to be around in whatever form that may take for forever.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm seeing so many different people on so many different levels of the industry, all, just doing their part. I mean, there's creators that are being helped, that are on the receiving end of being helped, but then you have creators out there starting these whole initiatives and starting funds and like that, like the Cats Creating Ice Cream Man. They decided they're going to do these 4-page miniseries and give half the money for, like, webcomics, I guess. Charge $2 a piece and then give half the money to a COVID fund. Like, that's awesome as hell. And we still get to read comics, although they're mini and shorts. But it's also a cool idea because it doesn't hurt LCSs in any way, because, LCSs don't strive on, 2 to 4 page stories. And I mean, I don't know. It's a neat idea. So everybody on all levels are coming together, and it is very promising to see it in that aspect. But as far as the big people that we really want the answers from, it's just, it's silence right now. It's silence.
I mean, yeah, that's sort of their MO. I mean, they're gonna have to say something sooner or later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Time will tell what those guys do.
Yes, yeah, well, that's all we can do right now is be patient, along with the rest of the world, with whatever the hell, everybody's waiting for something to happen again, and just so happens I'm waiting for comics to happen again. So this is what my eye's on. It's, like I said, like we keep saying, crazy times in the industry. I take it you don't have any inside influence, or any Marvel hasn't been writing you any secret letters saying, "Hey, Lonnie, this is the scoop." I mean, nothing like that going on. No. No.
I mean, I just because I'm just freelance for them.
Gotcha.
It's just kind of like I'm on the outside. I have no idea what their inner workings are like. So like I have no idea what's coming from them. I think they recently just announced they're cutting
a third. Yeah. A third of their June and July releases, I think, is what I read. Which, it's understandable. Even then, Marvel cutting down a third of their books is still almost as much as all of the other publishers combined coming out. So it's not really that much of a hit, except for to the creators that are working on these projects, And I know they announced that all the creators would be paid up, and, for the work they have done at this point, which I guess is admirable. But at the same time, I think there should also be some sort of compensation to those freelance artists, like or freelance writers and artists and maybe we're relying on a few more issues worth of work. It's well, we'll see what they do. Maybe they're just saving up for the big announcement. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully it's something big and positive.
Yes,
everyone's waiting for, but.
Well, let's stay on the level of positive, man, because you're an up and comer in this industry. Honestly, when I first read your work, I didn't think that I didn't realize I was reading some of your early Marvel stuff. I just figured, hey, this, I was just kind of jumping into the X-Men, and I read the Marvelous X-Men. And I was like, all right, cool. This Lonnie dude knows the X-Men pretty well. He must be a heavy hitter I just missed. And then come to find out, you haven't been doing this for very long. And that's awesome, man. So at this point, I want to talk. I mean, this is why you're on this show. You blew me away with your work. You're obviously somebody that will be in the talks for a long time, whether not way beyond Marvel as well. There's so much I want to talk about, but I got to kind of rewind a little bit, and I want to know exactly, why comics for you? Is comics something you've always strived to do? I mean, what got you into this industry? What got your interest into this industry? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been reading comics since I was a little kid. Like, it's always been part of my life. I guess to go into some detail. So I'm from Canada, and I grew up in Ontario, which is a bilingual province. And so in the school system, you speak French and English. And as part of like the French curriculum, to try to get you to read French more, because none of the kids really want to do it, you have to take books out of the library and read them to increase your reading comprehension and stuff. So growing up, the books I always took out of the library to read in French were comics, and because I was bad at reading French, so I just it was just, I thought it was easier to read that. And so I grew up reading like Tintin and Asterix and Obelix and in that kind of like, European young adult stuff. And, ever since then, and I was really young, this was in grade school, like since then I've loved comics. And after that, I got into comics watching, the old X-Men cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon and stuff. And so I would go to like the dollar store near my house, and they would just put back issues together in like a random grab bag. So I would just read comics completely out of order, and I had no idea what was going on most of the time, but I still loved it for some reason. And thankfully I had an older cousin who was like he's still a huge comic nut, and he would just like pass series on to me as I grew up. Everything from like Marvel and DC and even like Vertigo stuff. So he was really like a big influence on my taste in comics growing up. And then I think when I was in high school, I was a regular Wednesday shop goer. And at some point, I always knew I wanted to write, just in general, because I loved reading as a kid. And then at some point when I was in high school, I was just like, I think, comics is really what I love the medium, and I think there's a lot of potential, and I think I have something to say about these characters. So I started making comics when I was in university, just publishing like really bad zines and like stuff I drew myself, that were mostly like autobiographical stuff about friends, more stuff you would see from like Fantagraphics, like nothing Marvel would ever be interested in.
Gotcha.
And then I just kind of kept pursuing that, and then I realized I'm probably better off writing than drawing. And so I self-published a couple of small things. And then, after a few of those, I was like, okay, I think it's time to start pitching to publishers. And so that's when I did The Dreggs, was my first book that I co-wrote with Zach Thompson. And that was published in 2017. And, haven't really looked back from there.
Wow, man, I can't believe it's only been since 2017. I really find that hard to believe, because, I mean, when I think about it, I've been reading your work my whole time reading comics. I mean, because I took a big gap. And then when I fell into it, I fell in love so hard, man. I did, and that's why I have this podcast now. I got to celebrate this shit, because it changed my life. And like I said, this was all within the last 3 years or so. So when I read that first time reading that Marvelous X-Men, I thought, oh man, this guy's got something here. And then admittedly, the only indie published book that I've read of yours is Black Stars Above. I read issue 1 and then put the next 5 on, or next 4 on my list. So they're sitting in what I call my apocalypse box, which is perfect timing right now, considering there's nothing new coming out to read. So that's just sitting there on the stack right now, man. So I do have all of Black Stars Above, but I was going through and looking at your other indie catalogs, and I'm starting to realize that you have a bit of a dark side to you there, man. And I dig it. I mean, we can go on about Marvel all we want, We love the X-Men. You did that cool Yondu with Zach Thompson again, actually. I know that Kevin from NSC Live, he talked to me about you and about Yondu, and he was like, "Did you read this Yondu?" And I know that he did a bit of a Q&A with you that we're getting ready to put up on nsclivetv.com. But yeah, man, he was adamant. He's like, "You got to reach out to Lonnie." I'm like, "I think Lonnie's busy, man." And then I saw that you opened up your DMs on Twitter. I was like, "All right, this." I mean, this kind of. I'm all right. I'll see I'll see what's up. I mean, I know he's opening up to creators and answering all these questions, but maybe I can get him on a spot. And sure as hell, you responded almost immediately. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I'm glad you reached out. I always love talking to just anyone who loves comics enough to put their free time into making podcasts and talking to creators. Like I used to do comic book journalism before I was a writer. I did comic book reviews and interviews for years before I wrote them, so I know what it's like, and I love talking to creators. So anytime I can sort of pay that back, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I can imagine that you were extremely busy with answering all of those, because I mean, it even kind of circulated around the other creators, like, "Oh shit, look what Lonnie just did. This is awesome. Check it out." And that's being, I mean, that was being retweeted by some big heavy hitters. So, I mean, how was, I mean, was it kind of humbling a little bit to know, oh shit, look at all these people reaching out to me? Or I mean, what was that like for you?
Well, I think it kind of started because I got a couple messages just from friends who were like, I'm in lockdown, I'm out of a job, and I've always wanted to write, whether it's comics or movies or whatever. And they just came to me asking for advice. And I was like, there's probably a lot of people right now specifically who could use some guidance in this, who are, trying to manage their feelings about this or to dive into other worlds to escape it and create their own. So it was just sort of a thing. I thought, why not? I'll throw it out there. And I didn't really expect anyone to care, to be honest. But yeah, like since that, like, every day I get messages from all types of people looking for all different types of advice related to writing and comics. So it's been it's been yes, like you said, sort of humbling. It's been inspiring to see just how many people want to do this, and nice for me to be able to sort of help some people in whatever way I can.
Imagine, you look back and 3 or 4 of these people that shot you DMs a couple years from now, they're being talked about it for Ringos or something like that. I mean, that's cool, and I mean that's to me, being a creator is so much more than what you make, but it's what you influence as well, man. And already so young into this, you're already influencing people, and I find that very admirable. I really do. That's all the more reason why I reached out to you as quickly as I did.
Thanks, dude.
So I want to get back to this dark, twisted mind of yours. Just from, and like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to read these, and I'll be damned, I'm gonna search Mile High to see, a lot of these were printed up in trade, right? Are they available in trade?
I think, yeah, all of my creator-owned stuff is available in trade
cool.
right now.
Well,
except
I'm definitely
above the trade is not out yet, but
gotcha. But I got the singles on that one, so I'm set there. But I'm definitely gonna go through, and I gotta know about the Dreggs, man. You said this was your first big break, or your big. Tell us about the Dreggs. Let us know what's up with that, man. Because I know I just read the synopsis, but it's so much better if you just give the elevator pitch.
Yeah, the Dreggs is. I mean, again, I wrote that with Zach, and it was something we pitched as a homeless noir, which basically meant nothing other than the idea that it's a homeless man in Vancouver. His homeless friends start going missing, and so he begins to he's obsessed with detective fiction, and so he takes it upon himself to try to solve this the missing people's case that's going on in his community. And so that kind of started, Zach and I were actually working on a different pitch at the time. And then we thought we should not put all our eggs into one basket, and we should get something else going. And we were talking to our friend Eric Zavodsky, who lived in Vancouver with us at the time. And he was down to draw a pitch because he wasn't working on anything. And so Zach had this old idea for a screenplay that was about a homeless detective. And so he sort of brought that to me, and the story he had initially was just kind of like all over the place because he wrote it, when he was younger. And so we just stripped it down completely and just took the idea of a homeless detective and built a whole new story around it. And, Erica drew it, and we got it colored and sent it into Black Mask to the publisher, Matt Pizzolo. And we didn't hear back for a while, so we just assumed it was a no. And meanwhile, we got no's from a bunch of other companies. And then we were at Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, and we were just about to go to it, and we got an email from Black Mask saying they want to talk about the pitch. And we were super surprised because we didn't think anything of it. And then we went out for dinner with the publisher, and a couple hours later, he was just like, "When do you want the book to come out?" And we were like, "Whenever you want it to come out." Like, we had no idea. It was our first book. And then, we thought that was the only book we'd ever write. So we worked so hard on that, man. Like, we were both working day jobs, and we would meet up at night and work for like 4 or 5 hours to get some pages done. And, thankfully it's still our best received book. And we were so lucky to have people in the industry sort of stand behind it as well. Like Matt Rosenberg was a really a big help for that book in terms of, getting it in the publisher's hands and stuff. And then after 2 issues of that came out, Matt Rosenberg tweeted about it, and Axel Alonso was still editor-in-chief of Marvel at the time. And I guess he saw Matt's tweet, and so he asked Matt if he could read it. And so Matt sent him the book, and then we got a call like 2 days later from Axel, like asking if we wanted to pitch on Marvel stuff. And we were like, that was obviously super, super surreal.
That's amazing, man. And having talked to Matt on, at cons and everything, and I've even had him on this podcast, he is sincerely maybe one of the nicest people I've ever talked to in comics. Maybe the nicest person I've ever talked to in comics. He champions everything that is good about comics, man. He's, I don't know. I really admire that. So it doesn't surprise me one bit to hear that he helped get you, published and then into the door at Marvel, man. That's got to be a dream come true.
Yeah, I think, Matt was someone that, so I'd reviewed a book of his, and I think that's how we first started talking.
Oh.
And he was I think he saw just how bad I wanted it. Zach and I wanted it. And then once he read the pitch, he was kind of like, "Oh, these guys they don't only want it, that they can actually, they can write." And so I think he was just willing to help because he saw the potential there. And I'm so thankful for that. And he really is such a role model in terms of that. Like you're saying, there's nobody in the industry I think has more of a pure love for comics than Rosenberg does. And it's something that I kind of have to remind myself of on a regular basis and just look at him as someone to look up to and try to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, man, I'm all about the what would Rosenberg do. I mean, it's I don't know. He's just I don't know. He's a nice guy. He's a hell of a guy. So the Dreggs is dark. Yes, there's homelessness and it's noir. And then I'm reading some of these other things. I don't even know where to begin. Let's talk Her Infernal Descent. Jesus Christ, dude.
So funny, dude. These books are like, they all sound so dark. Some of them are pretty. Some of them are really dark and really depressing. But like some of them are, despite the darkness, there's an underlying hope in them.
Okay.
And Her Infernal Descent is one of those. It's a rewrite of Dante's Inferno. So it's like the most sort of pretentious, esoteric thing a literature kid could do. And so that's what it is. And so I think people's mileage may vary on it depending on how much they're acquainted with Dante's Inferno. But at its core, it's a story about a mom grieving for her family. So
yeah. I mean, it sounds dark, man. But at the same time, it does. I don't know. Did you read Canto by any chance recently? Did you pick that up? It was from IDW. It was David Boer and Drew Zucker. They did their own little. Well, it was a book of hope, but at the same time, they're doing their depiction of Dante's Inferno in their own way. But at the same time, I mean, it's you get that it's dark, man. I don't think when the whole Inferno is ever mentioned, you can never not escape the underlying just grimness of it all, even if there is that hope. So I look forward very much to seeing how you take that, because everybody has their own take. I know you said it was pretentious, but I don't know. I don't see that. And this is Aftershock.
I guess it's more so like I just recognize that it's sort of it feels like it's quote unquote highbrow. That wasn't our intention, but I think when people read it, they sort of feel left out if they're not in on all the jokes and all the like references we're making. But obviously, I still love the book, and I think it's something I would love to read. But I recognize that's not something everyone would love to read. Is maybe a better way to put it.
I could think of 6 people off the top of my head that would be so into this. So I mean, not just saying there's 6 people. I mean, I know 6 people that I could hand this book to, and they would be all about this, man. So I'm excited to check it out. I am. Once again, this is Aftershock, and cool. We could get this in trade too.
Yeah,
right on.
Aftershock was they were other people that were really early adopters in supporting my career. Like after the Dreggs was out, they reached out and immediately wanted to work with both Zach and myself together and individually, and signed us to a book deal. And that was crazy to have that happen within the first year of my first like professionally published work. So Aftershock's been great to me.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Aftershock books. They put out. I mean, they fly under the radar, man. But they put out quality stuff. And I love the heavy hitting creators aren't afraid to work with them either.
Yeah, man. But like the talent pool they have is just insane. It's like, because when we were brought in there, it was like the only people they were working with were like it was Warren Ellis, Garth Ennis, all these big names, and we were like, what the hell do these guys want with us? but it was so Mike Martz is their editor in chief there, and Mike's credits are he used to work at Marvel, and he's the guy who edited like Grant Morrison's New X-Men and stuff, and so his body of work is insane, and so the connections he has to writers is just nuts. And so having someone like that believe in us was like, I don't know, again, like I keep saying surreal, but it really was. And like now that I'm reflecting on it, it feels even crazier.
Well, it's nice to have those moments of re-reflection. Well, I guess there's not re-reflection, it's just reflection. But reflecting again. Yeah, man, it's I couldn't imagine being in your position. I really couldn't. I'm excited for you. Hence the stumbling. I really am. So you have, man, you have so much work I want to talk about. You go back to Black Mask, and you do. This is probably my most anticipated work of yours that I'm looking forward to picking up, and that's Come Into Me. This shit sounds gnarly.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could just sum it up, you sum it up pretty well as far as saying the fly and the internal sunshine of the spotless mind. I mean, holy shit. Just the art on the cover is enough to draw me in. This is twisted, man. This is really twisted. I mean, would you say that this is probably your darkest work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially the way that it ends is like...
Ooh.
I mean, like, a lot of my work, I try to... That's not true. I don't mind having, like, downer endings, but this one in particular is, like, it's pretty... It's pretty transgressive and subversive at the end, so... but I don't think it could end any other way. So I love that book. So I'm psyched on it. I guess I should say what it's about.
Well, I mean, like I said, I like to leave it to the imagination with the fly meets the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, but I do have the opportunity to hear it from the man himself, so please indulge us. How would you describe this, what seems to be just fucking mind trip, man?
So it's like, this was actually the pitch that Zach and I were working on before the Dreggs. This was the first thing we ever conceived together. And yeah, I don't know, it was just sort of born out of our like shared love for body horror and David Cronenberg and trying to do something similar to what he did without being derivative, in the sense of like looking at modern technology, seeing how it, what about modern technology is scary to us now, and like tapping into really modern fears and exploring how those affect or are related to the body. So it's really just about, technology's relationship to the body as a natural extension of it, and the idea of sort of forced evolution. And so, thematically, it was born out of that, and narratively, it's sort of, I don't know, I don't want to give away too much of the narrative, but it's basically about a new technology that's invented that goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I can't see anything going right with this at all, and oh man, I'm so excited to check this out. That art. Who'd you get to do the art on this?
So that was drawn by Peter Kowalski, he's a maniac in the best way, and he was someone who we loved his work. He drew the Nightbreed comics for Boom. He did some stuff for Marvel. He did the Dark Tower series at Marvel, and the Steam Man he did for Boom as well, I believe. And he was just a guy that we really loved his work, and we reached out to him thinking he'd say no, and he was just like, "Yeah, this sounds dope. Let's do it." And I don't know, he's just so detailed, and he puts so much work into the pages. And Peter's like the kind of guy who we instantly got along with, and now he's Polish, and he sends us these like amazing rambling emails about horror movies that he's seen, and like insists that we watch them. And he's just so excited about the genre that it gets us excited about it too. So Zach and I are working with him on a new book right now.
Oh yeah, is that something you can talk about at all?
It hasn't been announced yet, so I can't say too much about it. But it's going to be a mini series. It's also going to be fairly dark, and a mix of horror and science fiction. And I don't know if I'll tell you, but it's coming out through Aftershock.
Oh, cool! Because that was my next question is who's it being published by? Nice, man. Well, shit, they know quality, so I'm so excited. Oh, God, we're going to get more of this creative team. Is Zach Thompson going to be on it as well? Oh, man. I hope this turns into this magical trio that just lives on and creates comics together, because I'd be perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, Peter just emailed us yesterday, he's so excited about this project, and he just he loves horror, and so does Zach and I. So I think, and Come Into Me went so well, and we loved working with each other. So I think we're all going to be working together for a while.
I love it. Oh man, that's exciting. That's exciting. Sorry, you kind of have me. You have me stumbling right now, because I'm just trying to imagine what this could possibly be beyond all of this. But I'm gonna imagine on my own time. I'm gonna plow forward here. So you continue to work in indie comics, but you got to play in another sandbox recently. You got to play in Valiant's universe, and you got to mess with Bloodshot a little bit. Am I right on that?
Yeah, it was. That was an interesting and weird time. We were brought into Valiant sort of as they were changing over behind the scenes to a new editorial. So we were brought in originally by Warren Simons, who was the editor-in-chief there. And he then left after our pitch was developed. And so we were handed off. And the book sort of had to change because of the way that editorial was working at the time. They just wanted to, their whole line they were changing, and they wanted to, have a fresh start. So a lot of what we developed was sort of just changed in the creative process. So we actually only ended up writing, we were supposed to write the whole series, but we only ended up writing the first issue, and then even that first issue was sort of reinterpreted by a different writer because, again, they were taking it in a different direction. So we didn't, I guess it's all to say we didn't fully get to play in the sandbox the way that we at some point were going to. But, it is what it is. That's kind of just the way the industry works sometimes.
Well, I'm glad it was you that did the first issue, because I've been waiting for a Bloodshot relaunch, and then they came out with, they announced Rising Spirit, and I thought, all right, cool, man. Cool, this is my shot. And, originally it seemed like it was going to be an ongoing series, and then it wasn't. And like you said, I read the first issue, and I thought, this is awesome, man. You got to work with Ken Lashley. That was cool. But then, like I said, something changed. Something changed, but I was still devoted to learning Bloodshot. So, that makes sense to know that there was definitely some fuckery happening, and some... That definitely makes me feel a lot better about the situation, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a little confused. It's not that I didn't like it. I was like, I don't feel anything consistent going on here. And then they had another relaunch, and a proper relaunch with Celia and Booth are killing that run right now. Yeah,
I'm glad they sort of decided to relaunch again, because it really needed it. And like what Zach and I had planned is, it was crazy, admittedly, but I think it was also part of when we initially were brought into it. We had calls with Jeff Lemire, and so we were sort of taking over from what he was doing and expounding upon the mythology that he was laying out. And so I think they wanted to really have a harder reboot than the crazy one we were giving them in our own way. So I understand why it happened.
That makes sense.
But it would have been, it's like Zach and I still talk about what could have been with if we had been able to write it as the ongoing it was supposed to be.
Well, is that something that you would ever, take on again if, you had the opportunity? If Valiant said, okay, cool, Celia and Booth, they did 50 issues. This is awesome. For whatever reason, it's time to do this again, or maybe you just pick up from there. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing, or is the taste kind of soured a little bit, or?
No, I have nothing against Valiant. It's I don't know. I guess it would depend on circumstances.
Cool.
And it's also, an option of maybe some of the things that we were going to explore are things we can take to a different character, or even create our own character to.
See, that leads me to my next situation there, because the Valiant universe is they have some amazingly underappreciated characters, man. Is the Valiant universe something that you were reading, that you were familiar with, or did you get your Bloodshot knowledge from Lemire, or? Do you have other characters that you'd be interested in checking out with Valiant? Because I'm a big fan of all of them. I'm a huge EXO fan.
Yeah, when Warren was talking to us about, Warren and Robert Myers, who brought us in, were talking to us about Valiant, we read their whole catalog, and they basically asked us, what do you want to do?
Wow.
And so we pitched Bloodshot, Rye, and EXO. And Bloodshot was the one they ultimately went with. But, I still love those other pitches we sent them. Rye, in particular, we had a crazy idea for.
Rye is actually my favorite comic. Oh, well, I would love to hear your version of Rye. I really would. But as of right now, Rye is actually my favorite comic book on in my entire pull list. What they've done in 5 issues is just next level shit, man. I love it, and to know that you have another pitch to me says that Rye is going to live on through Valiant forever, because it's just quality people want this character.
Yeah,
and I love it.
I think Valiant's they're good at bringing in the right talent for the right books. So that's why they have books like Rye and XO from last year, a couple of years ago, was also incredible. So there's yeah.
Right on, man. Man, it's. I still can't believe that you've only been doing this for less than 3 years. This is so hard to believe. Well, let's. You do a lot of co-writing, obviously. What could you talk about your process of co-writing, especially with the? I mean, you kind of got this team together at this point. You're like I don't know, just definitely a duo between you and Zach. So obviously, you guys have a method to your madness. Could you talk about that at all for other creators that maybe want to team up with other writers? Because I know I couldn't imagine working with somebody else as far as being a writer on writer. I couldn't fathom that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's how I should preface this, is to say that I don't recommend it to anyone. It's I think I know other people who have tried to do it too, and it doesn't work. And I think the only reason it works for Zach and I is because our relationship started as a creative relationship. Like, we became friends, and then like the second time we hung out, we were working on books together.
Wow.
And so it was right early on. It was set, like, this is a creative relationship, and you got to work, I got to work. If someone's not pulling their weight, then they're out. And on top of that, Zach and I both went to film school and writing school. So like we had thick skin going into it. And so there's this sense of safety when we're together, of if someone puts out an idea that the other person could say, no, that's shit. And it, like, you just can't get offended by it. Mm. And I think that's something that a lot of people, when they sit down to write something with a friend, and their friend tells them they don't like their idea, that they take it to heart. But you can't do that, or else it gets in the way and creates drama. So Zach and I, when we write, we set out early on that we really co-write everything. So we sit in the same room, we both sit in the same Google document, and we're typing simultaneously. We talk about every scene, we talk about every piece of dialogue. And sort of nothing gets put on the page until we both agree on what it should be. So it's like a really intense collaborative effort that I know a lot of people they just don't have the time for, and they probably don't want to spend that much time with someone who's not their significant other. So
hell no, man, and that's why I say I couldn't fathom it. I mean, it's. But you guys work so well together. I mean, I loved Yondu. I'm a couple issues behind on Yondu. I think I got the first 3. It's a 5-parter, right? 5, yeah. I mean, you guys, I love it. You work so well together, and I'm glad you answered the question, really, by saying I don't recommend it. That's great advice. I mean, that's refreshing to hear. It really is the truth. Because two creative minds, so it would definitely be a 50-50 type of situation, as you would just, I mean, would you say it's 50-50, or I'm going to put you on the spot here?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what Zach and we get asked that quite often, and how do we split the work, and the answer we keep coming back to is I don't even think it's fair for us to say there's any percentage split, because we're in the same room and we're talking about everything. It's really you can't separate the entity that is Lonnie and Zach for the works that we do together. It's it's 100% Lonnie and Zach, not 50-50. If that makes sense.
No, I'm glad you put it that way, because when you are, I mean, essentially when you're two minds in the same room, you're really just one mind, just with 4 hands. I mean, that's all that's happening, man. At least that's what I see out of this. I do. I don't feel like, hey, that's a Lonnie line, or hey, someone else wrote there. That's a Zach line. That's not how I feel when I read your books. It's all it flows so well. You can't tell that there's 2 people writing it. Admittedly, I thought Zach Thompson was the artist. the first time I opened up one of the books and saw Zach Thompson second, like I said, it just feels like it's one writer is my point.
It's great to hear.
yeah, you just don't stop working together. And it's nice, the fact that you guys have continued to work together and haven't broken up yet and cheated on each other, that's refreshing, man. You guys have something special. There's very few creative duos out there that can work so well together, and as long as you have. Granted, yes, it's been less than 3 years, but shit, that's an eternity, man. And when it comes to creating stuff, it really is. Spending all that time together in a room, so kudos to you, man, and your thick skins, both of you. I'm gonna have to have Zach on and talk to him too. Sounds like a lot of fun. So cool. It's nice to get that little bit of insight as far as how a co-writer's relationship should work and the process behind that. Saying that we should look at it as 100%, not a 60-40, 50-50, anything like that. That's incredible advice. Let's see here. I want to talk about. You're young, but you had to have kind of at this point thought about what kind of legacy you want to have in comics, right? I mean, do you have a footprint, a stamp that you just can't wait to make, or just, as long as you're creating, we go with the flow? How do you look at this industry right now?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. It's a good one. It's just like I gotta choose my words carefully here. I guess I don't necessarily look at it as like I gotta leave an impact, but at the same time, I'm the kind of creator who wants to write innovative stories and experiment with the medium. And so if it so happens that those things that I'm experimenting with are well received, that's obviously great because it'll lead to more work. But I'm not coming into this trying to be the next Alan Moore or the next Neil Gaiman or anything. As much as I look up to those guys, I feel like if you come into it trying to be like a rock star, that's a bit disingenuous and you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So I try to stay humble as much as I can and just, keep my head down and I want to make the best work that I can, and I want to make books that I love, and if I can connect with people that way, then I'll be happy doing it.
Well, that's the cream will rise to the top. You don't have to come in and just, make sure everybody knows that you want to be the best. If you put out the best thing, whether you realize it or not, it'll get discovered, and that's all there is to it. So I like that you do approach it in that sense. You just want to create and. Man, that's, once again, I'm going to use the word refreshing because there's so many people out there that really go into this with the wrong intentions. So
yeah, and I think it's tough in our ever connected digital age. You see creators on Twitter who have such big personalities and profiles, and it's hard not to get swept up in that and to want to be that as a young creator. But I just feel like it would be a bit inauthentic, and I think when you look at those guys like Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, well, they were big personas. They also, they put their fucking heads down and they made the best books they could. And that's why we remember them, not because Neil Gaiman was wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket. We remember him because Sandman is a masterpiece.
Damn right, man. Damn right. See, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Do you have a character in Marvel's world that you're really looking forward to getting your chance at playing with?
There's a couple books I pitched to them not too long ago.
Okay.
I don't think they're going anywhere. So, but the characters I would love to write I'd love to do Doctor Strange. I would love to write Man-Thing and to make him.
Thank you. Oh my God, man! Can you please make that book? I'll start a Twitter fucking campaign. I'll do anything I can to make Man-Thing a thing again.
I have I know what I want to do with that book, and I want to do it more than anything else at Marvel right now. That's what I would want to do.
Did you read R.L. Stein's run?
I did, yeah.
How fun was that, man? I didn't feel like it was. It was so R.L. Stein. It was great. It was cheesy. It was goofy. It was. Oh, it was, but I loved it, but at the same time, it didn't do Man-Thing any justice at all.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, it was very much sort of nostalgic as someone who grew up with R.L. Stein. but it wasn't the man thing that I want to see.
No. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it. I didn't need anything more. I didn't need more than 5 issues. But yeah, no, it's time Man Thing is done right. He's just been, what are they? They're kind of using him a little bit in the Avengers with Boy Thing. I don't know if that's. But once again, not.
It's kind of. It's still kind of just treating him as a. It's like using him ironically, right? It's not using him as like a.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And I wanted, as someone who's a big Alan Moore fan, and like I love what he did with Swamp Thing, I want to do that, but not exactly. Like I don't want to make Man Thing into Swamp Thing. I want to give him his own like awesome run that people can hold up and be like, this is why we love this character.
It's needed, man. I very much look forward to the day that I get to pick up a Lonnie Nadler, Zach Thompson, I'm assuming, Man Thing. Like that sounds amazing. That sounds incredible. Well, man, I know. I'm sure I could ask you all the characters you want to, all to write. Everybody wants to write everything. I mean, Man Thing though, that's such a perfect answer. There's only one character that I'm still anticipating somebody say. Man Thing was number 2. I'm still waiting for someone to say Slapstick. I'm waiting for someone to bring back Slapstick, man. Slapstick needs to come back. That's my dude.
That sounds like something Ed Brisson's gonna do.
Oh man, I would. Ed Brisson doing. Oh, that sounds amazing.
He's like Brisson is like he loves all those kind of characters.
Yeah, see, I love them too, man, and we got to see a little bit of them, and the Mercs for Money, it was cool, but we got a little 6 issue that was nice, but I just want to see Slapstick live on in something, he doesn't need his own run, but give me a team book again, bring back the Mercs for Money. I'd love for Brisson to write the Mercs for Money. That would shit. But Man Thing though, that's really that's up there with me. I mean, literally number 2. That is, I have. Anytime I see a Man Thing cover, doesn't matter if he's on the story or not. I just collect Man Thing. I love it. He's just for one. You gotta love the giant size Man Thing. Come on now, Marvel, like you dirty dogs. But shit. I don't know, and I can't wait for this, Lonnie. I can't wait for this pitch to go through. I hope it happens. Man, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you're a busy feller, but I do something with every creator. Really, the whole point of these creator corners are to pick the brains of the people creating these amazing things, and I like to bring a little bit of psychology into this, albeit I have no foot in the door of any psychology practice in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know any people. But I've heard of something called word association. So I like to throw out 5 words real rapidly, and first word or phrase that comes to mind, and it gives me and the listeners just a little bit of more insight to gnaw on until our next chat. So if you're up for doing this, I'd love to throw it at you. All right. First word is hero.
My dad.
All right. Yondu.
Michael Rooker.
All right. He is very much fucking Yondu. Onomatopoeia.
Bam.
Fuck yeah. Horror.
Sorry, what was that one?
Horror. Like the genre horror?
The Exorcist.
Oh. And then villain.
Lex Luthor. Unfortunately, that's the first thing that came to mind.
All right. Well, see, that's why the word association's important. There's no time to think. I just want to know what's right on the top of your head when you hear those words. I like these answers very much. I actually, as perfect as the answer is for Rooker and Yondu, I didn't expect that at all. And it's about goddamn time someone said dad is hero. The rest of this stuff, I'm going to gnaw on my own. I'm going to let the listeners... I love these answers, though. I do. Man, Lonnie, this has been an absolute pleasure. Now, is there anything else that you want to shout out, let the listeners know about? Any final thoughts, any plugs, anything like that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like we mentioned before, my direct messages on Twitter are open, and anyone can message me if they're looking for advice on comics or if they just want to ask me some questions about stuff I've written. Block Stars Above trade paperback is slated for a May 27th release. That may get pushed back, but you can pre-order that right now. And similar to what the Ice Cream Man team is doing, I just put out it's a 9-page short comic that you can buy through my website, and 50% of proceeds go to the BINC Foundation that is helping support comic book retailers through this pandemic. And I think that's all the plugs.
What's that website? That's incredible. What's that website?
So it's just my name, so it's LonnieNadler.com, and you can find that also through my Twitter page, which is just at Lonnie Nadler.
Lonnie, that's awesome, man. I'm gonna definitely champion that cause. I'm gonna hop on there, and I'm gonna read everything, man. As soon as I get back into the warehouse, I know that I'm gonna do some digging. I got a bunch of indie books that I'm gonna search for, and if they don't have them in stock, then I'll suck it up and buy them digitally now. But you can bet, I mean, and this is a promise that I will be having these in my physical library, because I've only read your Marvel stuff, and getting to play in Marvel's fine and dandy and all, but you don't really get to flex what's really going on in that noggin of yours until you go indie. And holy shit, just by the synopses alone, I'm so excited to pick up everything you've ever done.
Right on, man. Thanks. I can't tell you how much like this kind of support means to me. It's you guys are the people keeping us writing, so I appreciate it very much.
Right on, man. Well, I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm gonna keep podcasting about the stuff that I read. So you just keep putting out. I'm gonna keep talking about it. That's a promise. Lonnie, this has been, I'm gonna use the term absolute pleasure once again. I hope you and all of yours stay safe and healthy during all this, man.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
We'll talk again soon. I got a feeling we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Reach out whenever you like.
Right on, man. Well, cheers.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayhour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Well, there you have it. Another creator has been cornered. Another interview in the books. Lonnie freaking Nadler. What a hell of a guy, man. What a hell of a guy. I'm not gonna lie. I did not realize how young he was. I had no idea. But you would never know based off of his workings and writings and what have you. The dude's a scholar. He's a hell of a guy. He's a nice guy. He's a smart guy. He's I'm gonna keep going on about how smart he is. He's an absolute treat. I love talking to him. I can't wait to see what else he has in the pipeline, man. I'm very anxious. I know that it's. He and Zach Thompson they developed quite the career together. It was just a great interview. I don't know. I had a stellar time talking to him. So, if you had as much fun as I did, then I urge you to prove it. Prove it by jumping on Patreon. Patreon.com/cheers to comics. If you think this episode's good, with your help, it's just going to get better. Everything about this show develops and gets better with the help of my patrons, the Slurred Army. So patreon.com/cheers to comics. No matter what tier you choose, I'm going to send you out some Cheers to Comics stickers. Just make sure you shoot me a message with your address. Lets me know you actually want them. And boom, there you go. You get some fucking Cheers to Comics stickers, and you are officially a part of the real Slurred Army, man. And then, you could also leave those reviews. 5-star reviews are the only kind of reviews I accept. 5-star reviews are huge for the growth of this podcast. Leave them on Apple, Podchaser, which is kind of the it is the IMDb of podcasts. You just got to check out podchaser.com. You'll be blown the fuck away. And when you do, leave reviews on Podchaser for Cheers to Comics. And you can actually leave individual reviews on there. And, right now, Podchaser's doing this thing where every review you leave, they donate 25 cents to Meals on Wheels. And then if I acknowledge that and reply to that review, then they match it. So potentially 50 cents a review. So as long as you put in the work and leave the reviews, I'm going to make sure that you get the reviews back. So podchaser.com on that. It's a hell of a cause. And it's, Meals on Wheels. We've all heard of that charity. It's reputable. It's a good thing. So good on Podchaser. Do your part. Support the things you love. Support the things that keep entertaining you during these times of boredom, because we all know most of you are incredibly fucking bored or going out of your mind and need to put something in your goddamn ears to block out the kids or whatever it is. And if Cheers to Comics so happens to be that thing, then for one, I'm honored. Two, let me know what's up. Leave a review. Become a patron. Show some support, huh? That's there you go. There you have it. Make sure you check out Lonnie Nadler on all the social media handles mentioned earlier in the podcast. And you slurds, wash your hands, read responsibly. Cheers, fuckers.